Welcome back to theCUBE. We are coming to you from Chicago and we are streaming live from Nutanix NEXT. I'm Alison Kosik. We have been hosting this show all day. I mean, I have with John Furrier. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of theCUBE here, and we are about to enter another discussion here about the next phase of enterprise IT.
Yeah, I mean, I think cloud native, Alison, we talked all week about this and today in depth. What we're seeing with Nutanix is the intersection of cloud native and AI native worlds rapidly coming together with the rise of agents, and the infrastructure required to do that is front and center, and a lot of smart people, still a small community. It's growing very rapidly, and the Linux Foundation recently announced the Agentic AI Foundation. That's going to be like the next CNCF version of AI, but it's going to be part of the Linux Foundation, so it's already exploding in growth, 170 members, so that's a tell sign that these two worlds of complementary engineering and business-minded people are going to scale AI to new heights, and in this next segment, we're going to unpack that.
Well, that's great analysis, so let's go ahead and unpack that with Dan Ciruli. He's the Vice President and General Manager of Cloud Native with Nutanix. Welcome to theCUBE.
Thanks for having me.
And Anindo Sengupta, Vice President of Product Management at Nutanix. Again, welcome to theCUBE, great to have you both.
Thank you.
So what are your thoughts about what John just waxed poetic on?
I think this space is so exciting with agentic AI. What we're seeing is a culmination of what, as Nutanix, we've been doing. We make managing IT infrastructure simple, and with agentic AI, the AI infrastructure is actually a lot of complexity. And what we've been doing with building hybrid multi-cloud, what we've been doing with cloud native, it just adds up to a point where we feel the agentic AI tsunami that we're seeing, Nutanix is well positioned to really help our customers and partners in really managing the agentic AI storm and really simplifying the complex infrastructure that I had to manage that.
What are some of the things people should know about with Nutanix relative to cloud native and making it agentic? What products? And GTC, there was some action, we saw some stuff there. Lay it out, lay out all the elements that are in play.
Dan, you want to talk about cloud native?
Sure, I mean, I think it starts with first of all, it starts with compute and storage, right? Nutanix has a storage layer, distributed storage. The architecture that Google used to underpin all of its ML efforts is what you get with Nutanix. But on top of that, and what we've added in the last couple of years, is a Kubernetes layer. All these new applications that are being written that are going to use AI are definitely going to run in Kubernetes. That has to be part of the infrastructure. And so we've had that for a couple of years now with NKP, and what we announced back at GTC was a layer on top of that, an AI PaaS, because what developers will expect out of infrastructure keeps getting higher and higher level. At first the developers installed Kubernetes, now they want it to be part of the infrastructure. And the same will be true of those projects that are going to go into that foundation that you were talking about, and things that exist today, things like Kubeflow, things like vector databases, things like KServe. The developers won't want to install, configure those, they'll think that's part of the infrastructure, so we added that layer.
And you guys also announced some Neo Cloud capabilities.
Absolutely.
Please get into that, that's pretty relevant.
Yeah, so I would want to take it at two layers. So we actually have the agentic AI solution which works on layers, and the Neo Cloud one is a perfect addition we announced at .next. When we think of agentic AI infrastructure, we're looking at a lot of our customers, partners setting up the new accelerated computing infrastructure, and there, starting with the consumption layer, everybody wants to get managed as a new cloud, so, and a cloud needs tenancy. So our core focus is to kind of help our partners build multi-tenant cloud. So we announced SP Central, which is focused on taking the GPU compute infrastructure and creating multi-tenant infrastructure that they can then sell the service catalogs to end customers. There's one more thing we're doing in the layer on the top from a consumption perspective. Dan talked about the AI PaaS layer, but we've been investing for over 2 years in where we think every agent will need intelligence, and that means we need the new inference engineering stack to be robust and hardened and still be available on demand. So we have a product called Nutanix Enterprise AI, and we launched at .next the capability of doing gateway management. The AI gateway is really around cost and governance. So as agents sprawl, models and tools need to be controlled and governed. So what we've announced is the capability to really drive governance around models and tools using Nutanix agentic AI. And last but not the least, we really believe that as we have more inferencing, the infrastructure has to be governed and managed. So we absolutely have a very strong Kubernetes layer on which all these applications run, but the core compute using our power of PHP and Flow allows us to be governed, managed, and really controlled more effectively. So that's what we announced.
You know, the SP Central capability, I think, is a home run. Because I think the enterprise is going to explode. Because the hard stuff is hard. They're not going to just buy AI factories. What do you run on it?
Yeah.
They don't load Linux anymore on machines. They're machines, there's many machines. AI factories need to have an AI stack. They got to have the containers, the Kubernetes. So,
and I think that the reason the SP thing is going to be so instrumental is that many of these enterprises, it's going to be a long time till they can get till they can get the silicon they want, right?
Yeah.
Everything from, of course, the GPUs now, even the RAM is affected. Prices are high, wait times are long, but they'll be able to turn to an SP and say, I need some access right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe they might move some
that
stuff
might be a
on-prem
feature,
later.
not a bug, because
Yeah.
the utility, again, back to the cost structure of an enterprise, they have a lot of unlock to do with the data. So, do you care how it comes, as long as it's secure? Again, back to the concept. What are we trying to do?
Right.
Do you see that playing out, and what are some of the things you're watching? Because we're watching that, we think that the service provider is going to be multi-scaled, many hyperscalers. So okay, you got some GPUs, I'll get some from you, and I can abstract it on-prem with SP.
I mean, it's funny because when you walked into the .next keynote, the large font letters as you walked in said, run anything, anywhere. And that's kind of our mission, right? And we do want to enable that. I think that customers, enterprises are going to find many reasons to run in service providers. We do see times where they have data gravity on-prem that's going to eventually require them to run things on-prem. And so our goal is to be able to say, hey, whatever the tools you need a hypervisor? Yeah. Do you need storage? Do you need Kubernetes? Do you need that AI PaaS layer? Yes, you can get it. From on-prem, you can get it in the cloud, and if you need a service provider, then we're giving them that layer too.
Okay, I want to throw some out, you guys. I have a couple more questions, but I want to get this out now because you just brought it up. Reminded me. VM's great, they got their job, they're going to do a bunch of cool things. It ain't my grandfather's VM. Maybe it's kind of like, kind of out there. You got containers, little renaissance going on with containers, but you got the AI stack that's still emerging. Companies are trying to figure out, what's my AI stack? So I guess my question is, what does that mean? What does an AI stack actually mean? With Kubernetes, with the cloud native hardened infrastructure, which is getting better and better, it's pretty mature, very solid. What the hell does an AI stack actually mean?
I think that's a great question, and what we're seeing in the industry, and I'll start with, Jensen's made popular the 5-layer cake, right? And I think it's a great way to frame the overall space. We start with the power and cooling for the data centers, then you have the chip infrastructure, then you need software to control then you have the actual hardware, then you have the software to control hardware, then you build agentic applications, and there's models, right? So models and applications. And this is the broad AI tech stack, but it's too complex. Where we play is, between the models and the chips, there's a lot going on. So when we think of Nutanix, that's the core heart of agentic
Sounds
AI.
like middleware to me.
and there...
It's the middle of the cake for sure.
Yeah. Middle of the cake, yeah.
And the whole story between models and the chip infrastructure and how agents will use that needs an orchestrator, a software layer that can help drive velocity of innovation. So when we talk about our agentic AI stack, we start with the agent builder layer that supports agentic applications being built, and those will run on the Kubernetes platform. And then the Kubernetes platform finally is orchestrating the use of this accelerated computing infrastructure. There, our thesis is, we can absolutely run Kubernetes on bare metal. That's how, when the training world was, where we had large models being trained, batch processing at scale, that model absolutely works well with Kubernetes on bare metal. But now when you think of every employee having tens to thousands of agents, that's really inferencing at scale that needs the dynamic nature of cloud management that we've been doing for years in the traditional cloud.
So it needs a referee.
Yeah, absolutely. It needs somebody to operate, govern, control with security and with agility. And that's the control plane that we are offering with Kubernetes and our compute layer with the HCN Flow.
Great question.
I love the referee comment because it's like a sports analogy. I love sports analogies. But the field is changing, the game has changed. And so I want to ask you guys, because you're both deep in cloud native, and you guys on both sides of the table now, AI native and cloud native. the number one question I get when I talk to my cloud native tribe, and it's like they love cloud native and the AI tribe, they both have kind of like coming to the same place. The number one question I get is, what are the key linkages between the services? So assuming those worlds come together, how should people think about the connection points between where they talk to? You mentioned Kubernetes on one side, but also it's sitting on. So you guys have, bare metal, you got NKP, you have other things. Lay out the linkages. What are the key connection points?
One of the connection points is going to be, you mentioned Kubernetes. We see customers running Kubernetes in a variety of ways, depending on their use cases, Anindo was saying. We see other vendors out there saying, well, the right way to do Kubernetes is in a VM, in a hypervisor, right? Other people say, no, the right way to do Kubernetes is on bare metal, and you use Kubernetes, and maybe you might use KubeVirt to schedule a VM in there too, but Kubernetes is your primary scheduler. We think there's use cases for both. As Anindo said, often it is fine to run. In fact, it's often better to run in a hypervisor for Kubernetes. So that is going to become the layer. Here's the thing that I think about applications, AI applications and regular applications. I think that in 2 years or 3 years, we don't make that distinction anymore. We just call these applications. And we will expect there to be infrastructure that is smart enough to know, I can see this workload requires a GPU, I'm going to put it someplace, and by the way, I'm going to locate this probably in a VM, it's Kubernetes scheduling in a VM, and that VM is locked to a GPU so it gets optimal performance from the RAM, the GPU, and the CPU, right? Oh, and here's another workload, and this just requires a CPU, I'll do that over there. So we won't think of them as AI applications and applications. There will be one stack that runs all of our applications. Invisible. And it'll be smart enough to do that.
Let's play that through, because okay, that means I need to know the resources. I got to have software, and sometimes it'll be non-deterministic. Okay, so map that out for me. What will happen? Because you have to assume, is it agents doing it? Is it, which scheduler runs the VM to make sure that Vera Rubin is being used for the best reasoning, and Blackwell gets the weather query? So these are like, you're starting to see the Pareto positioning.
That's a great question, and this is something where you're forcing us to talk about something that's coming up in our roadmap, but I'll talk about it.
All right, great, spill the beans.
In our CTO keynote, Mano mentioned that, but we see this decision across layers. One of the things that's really happening is, with tokenomics becoming important, we have to kind of focus on what's the cost per token and inference. The AI gateway will be really important taking the first part of the decision. So a semantic layer that says, it's a simple question, we can use a small language model and it'll give a very accurate answer, versus it's a deep research problem, I still want to use my biggest foundation model available. Yeah. And so we'll start doing...
And the cost.
And that's the thing. He said small language, but cheap model.
We saw FinOps come out of the cloud. Was there going to be a AI FinOps?
No doubt about it.
And so there's so many variables, but we can say, these agents will only get access to these models, and so there is a lot of optionality at just the gateway layer. But then as you start getting into scheduling, because these are applications running on Kubernetes pods, this is the classic infrastructure problem we solved, where how do you schedule the Kubernetes pods? The pods can actually run on a VM on a hypervisor, and you have confidential compute considerations, you have security and governance considerations, and those orchestration decisions are something that are very easy to take when you have an operating model that has been doing that for years, and we just want to kind of do that across all layers. And
Dan, your point is, look, it's just going to be an application because that's going to get taken care of in the software, aka middle cake layer, whatever you want to call it. It reminds me of the shift left conversation. Remember when DevOps became DevSecOps? Shift left was a big thing. Like, what are they? This just means applications that want security. It just happens now. No one says shift left anymore.
Right.
But that was a movement. Security came on the scene.
Yep.
It just happened.
And it's still true,
a similar path for AI integration.
Yep. And the infrastructure is going to get smarter, and the infrastructure will be able to handle those things. And by the way, for years, we've had intelligence in our hypervisor that is smart enough to co-locate, because we run across multiple nodes, co-locate workloads and data, right? That's been a thing that Nutanix has done for years. It's one of the things that made us so great for VDI, because we could run things close to the data. Now you factor in the GPU, and we're already good at co-locating things, so it is going to happen very quickly.
Well, we got the general manager, and we got the product management leads here for the cloud natives, so you got the keys to the kingdom, and you got the revenue. Token economics, you mentioned that. Jensen, for the first time, usually gives a nerd. He didn't say computer science once on stage, which was I had the over at 3 or 4. Dave won that bet, although he said token 19 times.
Yep. Yeah.
He introduced monetization in an NVIDIA keynote, highlighting the business value of tokens.
Yep.
And then, of course, he said everyone should have an open clause strategy, which is more of a hyperbole, but let's stay with tokens. The economics. How are you guys thinking about the business model and the customers in your world? Because you're also enabling a lot of simplicity. Do you charge for that? I mean, how do you guys think about the business?
So I think that one of the things that we've been thinking about is that right now it's very, very easy to get access to a model. It's just an API call to get access to a model, but they will charge you per token. And especially in an agentic world where one thing a user does might lead to 100 agent actions, each of which is consuming lots of tokens, it's going to get very expensive. And so one of the reasons, I think it's a great playground, but I think customers will very quickly have to start thinking about, do we call an API where we're going to pay per token? Do we use some infrastructure, maybe at a service provider, where we're paying for time on that, but then we get to generate all the tokens, you don't pay per token? Or when does it make economic sense to buy some hardware, run it on-prem, and now we're just buying electricity? Yeah. And our cloud economists will work with customers on what's the right model for you.
That's why the finance ops you get.
And like you said, like, will there be, absolutely there'll be AI FinOps to help you optimize.
Yeah, I mean, you got to own your own factory so you don't have to pay for the tokens.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think the interesting thing is, there are 2 dimensions to this whole cost problem. One, we are actually looking at the choice on models and how much it costs per token and when you own the infrastructure. The other is inference engineering itself is a new science where for the same model, how you actually manage the model requests, how do you manage the data layer with KV cache, how can you actually change the way you run the model with quantization, actually reduces your cost per token. So that's what we are focusing on. We're building capabilities in our AI inference engine to really give customers all the options to actually squeeze out the cost. Yeah.
Guys, it's super exciting. I'm looking forward to continuing to cover Nutanix at a whole nother level. Obviously, cloud natives, great, AI natives happening, and the ecosystem's exploding around it. So I got another run, another CNCF-like run coming. We'll be playing in both ponds. What's next? What's on your radar? What are you guys focused on now? You mentioned a little teaser on the roadmap with tokens.
Yep.
FinOps, a little teaser there too. What are you guys optimizing for?
You want to cover cloud native and I'll talk about it.
So, for cloud native, we announced a big partnership with Rapidport, where customers are more security conscious than ever. Supply chain for all of this will be important. We're going to start seeing new attack vectors, so security is becoming increasingly important. We are also seeing both cloud native and AI pushing to the edge increasingly, and we are seeing people who, we've seen this in vehicles, we've seen it in retail stores. We're talking to a government customer about a human-born Kubernetes cluster. They want them in backpacks. So the edge is really a place that
that's
a mobile Kubernetes cluster.
Is that incredible? But really, we're so pushing containers out to the far, far edge is something
hyper-converged edge
we
is
see
coming.
a lot of growth. Mark my words.
And I think the AI revolution will continue to grow on Kubernetes and cloud native. What we're focused on is really being with our customers and partners and then building through this. So a deep investment in Nutanix AI, which is really around inferencing that we talked about and the gateway product, where we'll continue to bridge whatever technology frontiers we have to really reduce cost per token, but at high performance and low latency. And then we're working with all our GPU partner ecosystem because this space is moving so fast. And what we want to make sure is we're there with the latest GPU and the ecosystem capabilities to be able to solve for the simplicity of managing infrastructure. So a lot happening on that side.
A lot of great stuff. I wrote a report at MWC, I dropped a research report called the hyper-converged edge, where the AI factories will be small. I mean, you get a DGX box, they're this big.
Right.
That's intelligence, that can change the wireless interface, mesh up the radios, you can have disaggregated Ethernet.
And it will be hyper-converged. You'll need to use local storage. You'll need to get the compute out of it, so it fits that classical definition.
You hyper-converge, you converge, you hyper-converge, you unconverge, you're back again. Like, this is evolution.
Yep.
Good stuff, guys, thanks.
All right.
Anindo and Dan, thanks. I know you guys have to get to a keynote. Thanks so much for stopping by theCUBE.
Thanks for spending the week with us.
Thank you for having us.
And thanks for watching. You've been watching theCUBE, the leader in live technology coverage. Thanks for watching.